disruption, reevaluating the value of NFTs. I'm welcoming on stage Magnus, Florian, Anna, and Michelle. Give them a big round of applause, guys.
On stage with this magnificent people here. Let's start with a very quick introduction of all of us. My name is Anna Graf. I work for Avate Systems, that is part of Peterson Group. We are a lot into media, but also into different things. So NFTs for us is a new space to discover. I am innovation lead Web3, so everything Web3, metaverse, NFTs is on my side and my team's side. And we love to see how NFTs are evolving at the moment. So the re-evaluating value of NFTs is especially like on the switch of how we see NFTs in 2022 compared to 2021. And Magnus, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Anna. My name is Magnus Jones. I'm the Nordic Blockchain and Innovation Lead at EY, Ernst & Young, the boring auditor that also do some fun stuff. I started the Norwegian blockchain department there in 2015. We're literally doing everything within this landscape, from tax, legal, regulatory stuff to clustering, tracing, monitoring, audit, accounting, bookkeeping, and also technical implementations. We got more than 300 core developers on the blockchain area, which not many knows. So we are a huge contributor A to Z within this landscape, also of course within the NFT space. So we're dealing with everything from one-to persons who go straight into a DAO structure towards a corporate who wants to trace a banana from A to B to C and believes that's the solution of the blockchain of the future, towards working with IE. For example, I assisted Adidas on their NFT and metaverse projects. So it's a widespread in the craziness of joy of this landscape.
Florian.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. My name is Florian. I'm working with Greenfield. I'm vice president there, and we are one of the leading crypto venture capital firms in Europe. We have 3 early stage funds in place running or raised. We have raised 150 million, which is compared to the US quite tiny, but we see Europe as a great investment opportunity, especially in the crypto space. We will soon raise an NFT fund, which will invest in NFT assets. It's more on the experimental side. It will be 30 million, but I'm happy to share some light on how we think about NFTs as a new asset class and how we can generate alpha and returns for our LPs.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thanks, everyone. I'm Michelle Peterson-Clark. I'm the Queen at Content Marketing Queen. I have been in the content writing space probably since 2007 or 8. Yes, I'm that old. And Content Marketing Queen was born in about 2012. I have been the head of marketing for an NFT marketplace for the last 14 months. My husband and I have been in the crypto space since 2017, so early on. He's vice president of a blockchain for Global. But yeah, we're looking at the marketing side and the content side and building communities and how we can extend beyond bringing into this space other people other than the crypto bros, because in order for it to be adopted more in general society, we need to move past. No offense to anyone that is a crypto bro, but we need to move past you guys to get on and bring on board other people.
So thank you so much. You see, we have a wide variety here: creator side, investment side, corporate side. And Magnus, how do you see, is there a re-evaluation of value in the NFT space from investment to utility, or how do you see the space at the moment?
Well, what we see from, as mentioned, assisting everything from the smallest actors to more the corporate, larger side is rather that we actually need to also, I think, first of all, see the landscape for where it is. And what I lack here, and I've attended quite a few tracks here over the last days, and no one is actually talking about how large this market is. And of you know how large the market is, not in terms of value, US dollars, whatever, but in terms of users.
Oh, we have Reddit now.
Yeah. No.
It's a little bit bigger.
No, but still, even though with that current market is 2.5 million people who got wallets, We're not even close to a couple of million, and core NFT market users who is actually trading is 200,000 to 300,000 users. So we have to be realistic how we have to build this one in a much more efficient way of conveniency of matters. Just when we try to claim NFT token down there using Chronos, it's a nightmare of going cross-chain to use it. So we see that lots of players out there are understanding the mechanisms, but also in terms of that they use it for other kind of purposes than just the PFP part. Like, for example, we have done a project together with the beer manufacturer Peroni. They use it for supply chain. Every time they produce a case of beer, we apply an NFT to that case of beer. Not because that NFT is going to go mooning straight away, but to put in origin of the source, the malt, etc. But they are also preparing for a future where they believe that DeFi, not the protocols as is today with fat fingers in the code and everything, and the hacks and frauds and rug pulls that will still come, but still the mechanisms and the principles that they will use for the future of their trading. Not now, but maybe in 3 to 5 years, the world will look different. That's what they're preparing for in terms of decentralized systems, decentralized operational systems. So they are thinking about how they can fragmentize their data. So they're using NFTs for a totally different purpose that we normally hear about on all these tracks here. So I think we need to see the landscape from a wider perspective. I'm more than happy to share on that one, but I would see in general that there's a majority that is growing on both the corporate side, but also on the builder side that sees sort of, like you said, more the core use cases coming up of what they need, and not just have a community of 10,000 people and do a drop of 5,000 and then have the supply-demand cross in the middle.
Yeah, but I think this is where we see the opportunities, and this is also why we are now investing into this field of getting really a mass market adoption now, and not just having it as an investment. But Florian, coming from the investor side, you were talking about this fund that you're setting up. Where do you see the long-term value in your case? Because coming from the VC side, you see that there are more and more investments this year compared to last year. So it is interesting for you too.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good question. I mean, overall, NFTs seem to be a very crowded space, and we're coming from like an upcycle. And now, if you look at NFT volumes and also reselling prices, the market pretty much came down quite significantly. Overall, we think NFT technology is quite important to reach mass adoption of crypto. And therefore, out of Fund 3, out of our early stage fund, we are investing quite heavily in NFT infrastructure. But apart from that, we think there is value in NFTs. And for us, and especially for our fund strategy, we have defined 4 verticals. The first one is in-game assets in kind of play and earn games. We're not a big fan of play to earn economies because they are not sustainable, but we, for example, have invested in Immortal Game, which is a chess online game, and what they're doing is they added an additional layer of innovation through NFTs. So chess pieces are NFTs, and you can get rewards if you do certain things in the game. And we also invested in these chess pieces. And what we did with them is we rented them out to a gaming guild. And so we generated passive income through that. And this is just one pillar. The second pillar is Metaverse Land, and we're also quite bullish on art and collectibles. These are probably the 4 most interesting verticals we are currently looking at.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we are also, for example, looking into loyalty, because at the moment loyalty is a one-way street. There's no community, so we see many options there to also integrate the community or create a community for the first time for brands. Michelle, you coming from the creator side, how do you feel about the bear market at the moment? Are you disappointed, or do you see the opportunities right now to start building for the future?
Well, certainly I've said lots of times I do a weekly podcast and we talk about that this is really the build time. This is a time to work out where your your part in the space is and what you're going to do with it for the longer term. But I kind of think about where we are now is when in the early 2000s when your parents called you up and said, now I'm trying to buy something online but they want me to put my credit card details in and I don't think so, I don't really trust that, what do you can I call them to buy this thing that they want? And I kind of think we're like that in this space right now in terms of a timing and a way forward. So I think it means that we are going to have to do a lot of education for people. There is going to have to be more security within the space for people to trust what happens. I mean, things like, CNN recently had their marketplace, then they cancelled it. Credible brands like that doing those sorts of things hurts this industry. And so in 5 years' time, when they decide that it is actually a good thing and it is mainstream and they do want to do it again, people are not going to trust them as much. And so I think we all need to think about how we do that now and what we do and how we speak about it and what we say. I don't think it'll be called NFTs in 5 years' time.
Yeah, are we even talking about NFTs now? The bigger picture, we're talking about metaverse already, is Europol and Interpol are getting into the metaverse. So there is something happening, and maybe the definitions of this NFTs metaverse, at the moment, it's all a little bit blurry. I think we should also talk about, when we talk about security, what does it really mean? What is an NFT in this case? Do we have to name it like this? Because for me, I always say like something collectible, something art, digital collectibles, digital art, to really focus on the product a lot more, to give it the value of what it means so that the customer understands. And also, when we talk about wallets, does everyone really want to have their private keys? Can we go custodial? What is easiest? So maybe Magnus, because I know with Europol you have been talking also, how do they see the space? And maybe you can give a definition of what an NFT means in the metaverse in Web3.
Yeah, of course. First of all, an NFT is not an NFT. We have so many different token standards there. Only on Ethereum, it's not about 721 or 1155 or 998 or whatever. There's so many different standards with different attributes towards it. So we also need to think that in the context of what it actually does. As much as I agree with you on the side of what is said that it's only about technology. It's a protocol layer. We don't care about how the SMTP protocol works when we send an email. But right now we have too many people who says my SMTP is much better than your SMTP, and that creates a lot of noise out there. That's one of the challenges in general. But also it's down to, I believe personally, we're moving too fast of saying just of the craziness of having something new every third month. Saying, oh, we cannot recall these NFTs anymore. That's down to that people have no clue about what an NFT is. And that's just, if you look into, for example, when Starbucks is suddenly turning their reward programs into NFTs, they don't use the word NFT there. I instantly understand that. And then it's a bunch of 20-year-old advisors who has no clue about tax legal implications of it. They don't use the word to be cool. But they forget that the users, they got no information about tax and legal compliance about it, the risks and the obligations that they have to report this one. It's not just a reward thing.
But wait, is it on the user or the companies to do this?
Both sides. On both sides, there's a risk. So when we're going into metaverse, and I personally believe as much as you can call metaverse a hype, that will be the driver that will make NFTs technology in general mainstream. And that's down to when we have an office in Decentraland, EY. And we have then, of course, virtual garment that is for EY employees. But when we have our business presentations there, we give away EY virtual hoodies to the kids. That's also NFTs. Right, last week I brought the Norwegian government into Metaverse, built an office for them there, the tax authorities and the business register. And they're building hoodies, of course, for the purpose of giving away, using NFTs. Of course, verifying the land, that's also an NFT. So all assets, I think we need to see it in a broader perspective of both virtual, but also physical, like the Peroni case, will be brought into it. And in the back-end side, we will not talk about whether or not it's the 721 or 998 or whatever it is. That doesn't matter, because an NFT can also change attributes. And that's also interesting from a tax legal side, but also from an application side that the consumer should not care about at all. So I think
Are
before.
we talking about utility to security token or what?
No. I mean, it's not that interesting because it's like when you're looking into an NFT, you cannot just classify an NFT, and that's why I'm saying Mika, just forget about it. It's outdated before it has come into place, because you have to deal with these cases on a case matter, because an NFT can change those attributes over time. So that's why someone at the back-end side needs to have cope of the tax and legal side of this one, while not giving that burden over to the consumer who has no clue about this one. And that's where we need to ease up in order to make this more mainstream. So I'm not here to be the party killer. We're here to build this landscape, and we're doing this together. But we have to be realistic towards where we currently are and not create more confusion and before we have come to a clarity around authorities where they are, etc. in
That's
this
very
landscape.
good. How do you see this, Florian? Because I mean, all these aspects, I think you are taking them into regard as well. So how do you deal with that when you classify the assets of what you're going to buy or not?
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with Magnus. I think, first of all, I mean, the crypto industry is too much focusing on the technology side, but to reach mass adoption, I mean, we have to focus on UX. And the best user experience at the end of the day will convince masses to come into crypto. And it's not, I mean, they don't care if if an app is running on a decentralized infrastructure or on a centralized infrastructure, and thus, I mean, we need to focus on UX, and this is what we are telling founders and builders, I mean, all the time. In terms of value, I mean, for example, we really like talking about metaverse, we really like the digital fashion topic. I mean, we invested in the Fabricant. It's a fashion studio of the metaverse where you can design your own clothes and skin for your avatars. They have already, I mean, partnerships with big brands like Adidas, Puma, and so on. And what we really like is the trend of going into virtual worlds. And in our opinion, we think people will spend more time in virtual worlds than in the physical ones. And they want to express themselves there. I mean, and in terms of creating an identity and expressing yourself, you need clothes, and therefore, I mean, we like the idea of digital fashion because, I mean, in the physical world, you get up, you get dressed once, and go to bed, and in our opinion, in virtual kind of environments, you will dress differently, and you will dress your avatar differently for any kind of meeting, and again, I mean, your digital identity, I mean, can be completely different to your physical one. And this is super important. And another question, I mean, we are getting a lot also from investors is the question, I mean, metaverse is far, far away. I don't know. I mean, I would argue we are already in a kind of metaverse. I mean, all the Zoom meetings, I mean, we are in virtual worlds. And the thing is, we are there physical, but what we are seeing is people are changing their backgrounds when they're working from home, but they're creating kind of virtual environment. And this is kind of expressing themselves. And the next step would be, I mean, putting filters on, and then at some point, there will probably avatars, and they will be in these virtual environments having meetings.
Yeah, that's all coming, and I love this so much that you have like the same definition that I have about the metaverse. But Michelle, coming to you for a second, how do you see, how far are we in there? Where do you see the value of NFTs at the moment, and maybe also in 2 or 5 years?
So a couple of points. I think one of the barriers to entry we have right now is the terminology that we hear and that we use, and when I say we, those of us that are in the industry, that people outside of the industry don't understand. So DAOs, NFTs, social tokens, you know, whether it's an ERC20, whether 21, you know, like whatever, 720, 721, people go, well, I don't know what that is. And so if I wanted to buy if I did want to buy an NFT, I don't know how to, like what chain it's on and what currency I need and how do I get that into a wallet and all that. So that's a problem. I think that developing and building communities is going to be where the trickiest part comes, but where it also will allow people to enter and have a less difficult time to be onboarded. So I think that if we can, even though it's decentralised and we talk about that, if we can kind of have an agreed set of terminology that we use, so that
standards. You're talking about standards, setting new
yes,
standards.
standards, yeah, and so that then people can become familiar and comfortable with that. But at the same time, I think that while the metaverse is great and all that, I think that, you know, the last few years with the pandemic and people being stuck at home, people do crave interaction in real life with other people. And this is where, while the metaverse and all of that is great for people that might not be able to do that, ultimately we are going to have to move that into things like this or meetups or whatever.
So there's also like this value of really creating the communities and creating new worlds. Magnus, you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I as much as I agree with you, because we are privileged to live in countries where we can just walk out the door and take the tube 2 minutes out and literally out on the countryside. But what we tend to forget in this context is, like, if you live in a large Asian city, you cannot do it. There's so large market out there where people are literally living in 2 square feet, and this is their escape from the daily life where they go in. And
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't
the
disagree with that.
where we clearly see down to, you know, the definition of metaverse is like what we see like it is today. It's a bad pixel version where we have the color palettes of Miami Vice that meets the graphics of your Nokia phone on the Snake game from 1997. That's the fact of metaverse per se, what it is. A gaming immersive world where you can socialize. That's what is out in the media. But what it's actually about is much more like you talked about, Florian. It's down to the fact that it's 3 main pillars of technology there. That's XR, extended reality, how we see and smell and feel and do these things. And then it's AI, and then it's the blockchain. And it's the combination. And you don't have to have blockchain part. You don't have to have NFTs in order to have a metaverse solution. So all of us, we are in the metaverse already because we have a smartphone. And there we have an AR filter where you can put a funny ape or a lion on your face when you're talking at FaceTime, for example. That's a metaverse solution per se. Like Amazon when they did an AR solution to put your sneakers on your feet to test the sneakers you're buying. So I think we will see more and more of these, call it core use cases, where we will have to verify both physical and digital items in a way where the user doesn't think about it. And I think that's down to a case in Norway where we had an artist, famous artist in Norway called Bjarne Melgaard, but he tried to do an NFT drop. His core community, who's buying his physical pictures, they have no clue what an NFT is. And my clients, who runs the NFT community, they have no clue who Bjarne Melgaard is. You can think you are as famous as you want. So when he tried to sell, couldn't sell it out. It wasn't before when we advised them to say, team up with an crypto exchange who can have a concierge service so the average Joe can go in and say, I want to buy this with fiat. That was when he started to sell. So we need sort of these onboarding mechanisms where it's in the background. That's my take in general. But I'm totally convinced that in general, we will just see a flow
So sorry,
going on this one.
We have 30 seconds left, so when some
Say
final
that then.
words. We have these
moderator.
different verticals. Yeah, I have the clock. It was turning in
Stop
between.
me. I will not
but
stop.
It's so cool to see. We have these different verticals, and we have so many opportunities at the moment. Also for healthcare, we see that also for elder people, this extension of the physical world is not just for the young generation Z. It will be for everybody. AI will help us with that. And one last sentence from everyone, because we're also running late here. Where do you see NFTs in 5 years? Mass market or niche market? Magnus, Florian, Michelle.
I'll go first quickly. I think that you will get in a...
No, just mass market or niche market still.
Is
this something?
Get in a taxi and a taxi driver will say, what one did you buy today? And that was when we'll know that it's a mass market.
Okay, so that's mass market. Cool.
Mass market for sure.
Magnus?
I think back inside, without the mass market knowing it, we will be using a lot of it. But the mass market in general out there per se, per the consumers out there, will not have it as a mass market adoption towards it. That's my take in 5 years.
Okay, so thank you very much. Mass market from our side. I think here too, we are here to amplify and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.